Hello students, welcome you back for the new session of 10th class science. Myself Sunil Pawar. Today we are going to discuss the next topic. Okay, now you know that we are discussing chapter 6 from the biology portion, okay, the life processes, and because of the vastness of the life processes chapter and to facilitate the learning, we divided it into the 5 topics, okay, 5 parts. In the first 3 parts we already talk about the nutrition in plants, we learn about the nutrition in animals. Then in the previous video we just discussed about the respiration in animals and plants, okay. So now in today's session we are going to discuss about the transportation. This is one of the most important event or the process which takes place in the plants and animals, okay. So first of all we make it clear what is the meaning of transportation, okay. So as it is given in this slide, the transportation is a life process in which a substance absorbed or made in one part of the body of an organism is carried to other parts of its body through various means. 2 things we come to clear with the help of this definition. One thing, transportation is the system who is responsible to carry the substances from one part of body to another part of the body, and which substances, which is produces, or what we say the made. How it is made actually? Either by the process of anabolic or catabolic processes. Anabolic process is responsible to synthesize and catabolic processes are responsible to break and produce the new substance. It may be toxic, it may be not harmful, but it is just the waste for the body, okay. Third one, that is the absorbed substances. What is the source of these absorbed substances? Nutrition. After the digestion, the next process is absorption. So this absorption takes place to perform and then these nutrients are carried out from one part of plants and animal body to other parts, okay. So now what are the means of transportation? Basically if we discuss, then there is a vascular system in the plants or the animals, or we also simply call it is the circulatory system, okay. So here in this one we will learn about the transportation in human beings and then later on the transportation in plants, clear. The transportation performed by circulatory system or vasculatory system. Circulatory system means to circulate, that means to pass out, or the vascular system means through the vascularized structure, okay. So that is called simply the transportation system, okay, circulatory system. Why we call it the system? Because to circulate not only one organ is responsible, but it is a combination or the complex of different system and their components, okay. So now here first we are going to discuss what is the functions of circulatory system, okay. So first of all, transport of nutrients. As you know that plants prepare their own food in the green parts of the body, that means in the leaves, but it needed in different parts of the body. So that's why with the help of this transportation it need to distribute in the different parts of the body. And the animals, they require this different nutrients in different parts of the body, but what is the source of nutrients? That is the nutrition. And in the nutrition only this digestive tract receive this one thing, but with the help of this circulatory system these absorbed nutrients are transported and distributed in the different parts of the body. Then we come to the next point, that is transport of waste products. As you know that so many waste products are produced as a catabolic process in the body, okay, or as a byproduct of some metabolic processes, just like that urea, creatinine, carbon dioxide, water, and these all substances there is no need of these substances in the body, and even this urea, creatinine, arginine and this kind of substances are even harmful for the body also. So their elimination is quite compulsory. So they were transported to their respective excretory organ. Then transport of respiratory gases. Okay, you know that in the plants also exchange of gases, and in the human being and the other animals also the exchange of gases takes place through the respiratory organ, and from this organ to different part of the body, cells, tissue, it is carried out with the help of the circulatory system. Now the next point is transport of metabolic intermediate. Okay, some metabolic substances produces as a intermediate substances. Okay, so these substances are needed in the other part of the body. Okay, where they will be further assimilate and produce the next one thing, or to convert them into the less toxic substances or less harmful substances, it is compulsory to carry out them. Then transport of the hormones. You know that hormones is a category of the chemicals which produces by the endocrine glands, and endocrine glands are ductless. Okay, so for this purpose this ductless glands releases their secretion directly in the circulatory fluid, and with the help of this fluid it carried out in different parts of the body, cell to cell. Okay, now next one, there is the maintenance of the pH. You know that the consistency and the constant level of the pH is quite compulsory to perform the different metabolic processes. Okay, so in the body also this pH value is maintained by the diffusion of the different catabolic substances or the different substances which produces during different metabolic activities. Then regulation of body temperature. As you know that water is the most important component of the blood. Nearly 90% of the total plasma is composed by the water. So this water is a good absorber of the heat energy, and its specific heat is also very high. So it carried out the temperature from the part of origin to the outer surface and helps to maintain the body temperature also. Okay, now next one thing, protection from the diseases. You all are well aware about the WBCs. These are the phagocytic in nature, and they are considered as the army of the body. Okay, so soldiers of the body. So they are responsible to destroy the germs and the intruders. Then maintenance of the homeostasis. Homeostasis is a process of maintaining the static state of the body. What is the static state? That means the maintenance of the internal environment of the body according to the surrounding or the external environment. So this way you can see that how this circulatory system is important. Okay, not only in animals but also in the plants too. Okay, now then here we are going to discuss the transportation in human beings. Clear? You know that human being is one of the most complicated and complex creatures in the nature. Okay, so the circulatory system is responsible for transport of various substances in human being. And when we discuss about the human being's circulatory system, then remember it is closed type of circulatory system. Okay, in the arthropods and the previous lower organism, you learn that they consist of open type of vascular system. Okay, so basic difference between the open and closed type of circulatory system is that in closed circulatory system the circulatory fluid is always travels within the blood vessels and the capillaries or tubes or the pumping organs. It will never comes out in the outer areas, in the open areas, that is the sinuses, vesicles or body cavity. So we are having most developed, most complicated and most efficient type of circulatory system. Okay, so if we discuss its components, so this blood circulatory system or lymph circulatory system is basically composed of the first one, that is the circulatory fluid. Whatever the fluid which flows during the circulation, that is called a circulatory fluid, and we are having two circulatory fluid, one is blood and second is lymph. So it is called as blood circulatory system, it is called as the lymphatic circulatory system. Second one, that is the pumping organ, that is the heart. The organ which is responsible to distribute and collect the blood from the body and to the different parts of the body, its role is very important. Then the third one, blood vessels, the tubular structures who is responsible to carry the blood from one part of the body to other part of the body and from other part of body to the heart. Then it is basically divided into three categories: arteries, veins and capillaries. We will discuss this further in the detail, okay. But you know that arteries are responsible to carry the blood from heart to different parts of the body, that means to distribute, and veins are responsible to collect the blood, that means from different organs to heart, okay. And capillaries are very fine tubular structures, okay, which form from the arteries and veins. So this is the third component, blood vessels. One by one we are going to discuss it. So first one, that is the circulatory fluid or blood, okay. So here we can define it. Blood is a red colored fluid circulating connective tissue. All the basic facts about the blood is discussed here. It is a red colored fluid circulating connective tissue. That means it is a tissue, even though it is a liquid in nature, okay. Up to 9th class you just learn about the simple type of tissue, complex tissue, but not this liquid tissue, but its composition remains same. It has all the three components of the tissue, so that's why we also call it the circulatory tissue, okay. It is red in color, and because it is responsible for connecting and circulating, that's why I call it the connective tissue. Now it is salty in taste and slightly alkaline in nature. So of course its pH ranges from 7.3 to 7.5 because of presence of the salts in it, okay. And it's heavier than the water and viscous fluid. Its gravity is higher than the water, so whenever we kept in the water, then it settled down. Then in human beings it forms about 7% of the total body weight. That means your body consists nearly 5 to 7 liters of blood, okay. Now this blood is composed of these three components. One is plasma, second is blood cell, and third is the platelets, okay. So one by one we are discussing them. So first of all, blood plasma, okay. You can see that the blood plasma is a pale colored liquid and is about 55 to 60% of the total blood, which is mostly composed of 90% water and 10% of solids, okay. And the blood plasma forms the matrix of blood. With the help of this one thing we can conclude few facts about it. It is pale colored in nature, okay. I think so you saw in the laboratory while testing your blood for the disease or diagnosis of any disease, okay. When this blood is kept in a test tube and left it for some time, or when it's centrifuged, then after some time you may clearly see the two parts, the upper dark red color part and the lower colorless or pale yellow colored part. So this is the lower pale yellow colored part is the plasma. So this is the blood plasma. It is pale yellow in colored, and next one thing, it consists nearly 55 to 60% of the total blood volume, okay. And this plasma is composed of nearly 90% of the water and only 10% solutes are there, or the solid contents are there. The solid contents are the dissolved solutes in the water. It may be in the form of organic and inorganic solutes, okay. It also contains and it transports which I think food, carbon dioxide, hormones, antibodies, urea, these all such thing in the dissolved condition, okay. So now this is all about the blood plasma, and it is forming the matrix part of the blood. That means it is responsible to form the base, the main part of the tissue. Now then we come to the blood cells or the corpuscles, okay. So there are two type of blood cells, that is red blood cells, or we call it the RBCs or the red blood corpuscle, and second is the white blood cells or the white blood corpuscles, and it constitutes about the 45% of the blood. So it is the solid part of the blood and it is composed by this WBCs and RBCs. So one by one we are going to discuss this WBC, RBCs, okay. So RBCs, or we call them the red blood corpuscles, or technically we call them the erythrocytes. Okay, so these are of red color because of the presence of hemoglobin, which is a pigment. So what is the reason behind the red color of the blood? The presence of color pigment hemoglobin, and this hemoglobin is present in the this blood corpuscles. That's why it is called as the red blood corpuscle. Okay, this hemoglobin readily combines with the oxygen and carbon dioxide, so it is responsible to transport carbon dioxide and oxygen. Okay, now the transport of oxygen happens through hemoglobin by forming the oxyhemoglobin, and carbon dioxide is also carried out with the help of in the form of the carboxyhemoglobin. Okay, now it is nucleated biconcave in mammals, and its lifespan is about 12 days to 120 days. Remember one most important fact, this is somewhat different from the concept of the cell structure. Okay, but these RBCs are anucleated, that means they don't have nucleus. Okay, and they are biconcave in nature, that means their outer surfaces remain invaginated in it. Okay, and its lifespan is also very short, 12 days to 120 days. That means throughout the life they need to produce, and you know that your liver is a hemopoietic organ in the fetus stage, and in the adult one the hollow cylindrical bones with that bone marrow is responsible to perform the production of this one thing. Okay, now then next we come to the white blood corpuscles, or it is called as the leukocyte. Leukose means colorless, cytone means the cell body. So such cell body which is colorless in nature is called as WBCs. These are of pale white color in nature, and they play important role in the immunity. As we discussed earlier, it is responsible for the immunity of your body. Okay, what is the immunity? The resistivity or the capacity of the body to resist against the diseases or the germs or the pathogens, that is called as immunity. They are phagocytic in nature. Phagocytic means what? They are able to catch and engulf and digest and kill the intruder, that is in the form of the fungus, protozoans, bacteria, viruses, whatever is there. Then nucleated, on the place of absence of nucleus they contain the nucleus, and amoeboid in shape, that means their shape is not fixed, they are amoeboid in nature. So even though they are larger than the RBC, but they can pass out through the membrane of the blood capillaries and this one thing, and the lifespan is very short, that is 12 days to 13 days. They are hardly 5,000 to 6,000 cubic millimeter, okay, in nature, but at the time of the infection or any kind of disease, their production is increases. Okay, now then here we move forward to the platelets. It is also called as the thrombocytes. Clear? These platelets are responsible for blood coagulation. You know, very important process of the body, that is the blood clotting or the coagulation. Blood remain in the liquid state inside the body, but at the time of the injury it turns into the solidified state, it becomes solidified in nature. So these platelets are playing the main role in this one thing. The blood coagulation is the defense mechanism which prevent excess loss of the blood in case of any injury. Okay, and these are small, colorless, flat, granular, non-nucleated corpuscles, and the lifespan is also very short, that is 6 days to 10 days. Even they form by the accidentally or the breaking down of the other corpuscles too. Now then we come to the next body fluid, that is the lymph. Okay, so lymph is similar to the blood, but RBCs are absent in the lymph. There is total absence of the RBC, not a single RBC is present there. That's why it is colorless or pale yellow in color. Then lymph is formed from the fluid which leaks from the blood capillaries and goes to the intercellular space in the tissue. Okay, that means it formed from the separation from the blood plasma. Okay, so this fluid is separated out from the capillary membrane and collected in the intercellular spaces of the tissue. This fluid is collected through the lymph vessels and finally returned to the blood capillaries, and again through the reverse action through the blood capillaries, it again mixed to the blood. Okay, so this way it is also very important to maintain the volume of the blood. Now we come to the lymph also play an important role in the immune system. It contains the lymphocytes, it contains the WBCs, so it is quite it plays quite important role in the immunity of the human beings. Okay, you and me are also having the lymph glands, just like this tonsils. Okay, these tonsils are also a lymph gland that is responsible to produce the lymphocytes, which is responsible to increase the immunity. Then the lymph yellowish fluid escape from the blood capillaries into the intercellular space, contain less protein than the blood. You know that in the blood the dissolved substances are there, it contains more amount of hemoglobin, so more protein is present in the blood and very few or less in the lymph. Now lymph flows from the tissues to the heart and assisting in transportation and destroying the germs. Okay, so it is unidirectional in nature, it always travels from tissue to the heart, not from heart to the tissue of the organs. Clear? Now with the help of this tabular presentation, it will be very clear between the lymph and the blood. Just like blood is a which one thing? Blood is a red colored fluid. Okay, while here we can, sorry, it is written wrong. This blood is the red color fluid and lymph is the colorless fluid. Okay, then it contains plasma and lesser number of WBCs and platelets blood, while it is more. Okay, in the blood it contains plasma, RBC and platelets. Okay, it carries oxygen and digested food, while blood contains oxygen and digested food. Lymph plasma lacks protein. Okay, again I am telling you, this is lymph and this is blood. Okay, so in the lymph part very less amount of protein is there, while in blood plasma consists of proteins, calcium and phosphorus is there. The nutrients are supplied from the cells tissue to the blood through the lymphatic vessel, while these nutrients are supplied to different organs. Okay, then the movement of lymph is in a single direction, while the movement of blood is in the circular motion. That means from heart to organ and organ to heart. That's why it forms a complete circle, but you know that it produces in the tissue, so only transfer from tissue to organ. Okay, now moving forward to the next part of the blood circulatory system, and that is the heart. Clear? Now you know that this heart is very important for the circulation. It is called as the pumping organ, and here few facts about the human heart is given here. The heart is a muscular organ which is composed of the cardiac muscle. Okay, these cardiac muscles are only and only present in the heart, and they are autonomous in nature. Okay, they work throughout the life. Okay, if they will stop, then the life will also stop. Okay, so once they started their functioning, without any fatigue, without any space, without any pause, they will continue till your death. Okay, now heart is cone shaped hollow muscular organ which lies in the thoracic cavity, mediastinum, that means the space between the two pleural sacs. Okay, now it is somewhat misconceived in your mind that heart is located in the left side of the thoracic cavity, but actually it is in between the two lungs and in between this one thing. This is the exit side. Slightly 1/4 it is present in the left cavity, otherwise it is exactly in the middle of the thoracic cavity. Clear? So this is the specific term, remember there. Now it is so small that it can fit inside the adult's wrist. Okay, and it measures about 12 centimeter in length, 9 centimeter breadth and 6 centimeter thick. Okay, if you fold your hand like this, then this shape is exactly the shape of your heart. Okay, it is pear shape in nature. Its length, if you want to learn about the measures, that is nearly 12 centimeter long. Okay, 9 centimeter wide or breadth in nature and 6 centimeter thick. Okay, it is red to pink in color, and here it is having a notch, that is called the ventricular notch or fissure. Okay, it weighs about 300 grams. Clear? It very less in comparison of the body, but it is very important for the working purpose. Okay, it is enclosed in a transparent membrane bag like structure that is called as the pericardium. Clear? because it is very vital part, it is very important, so it is very well protected by the nature. Just like from outside you have a thoracic cage, so this cage like structure is responsible for protected from the mechanical injury. Second thing, this heart is covered by a double membranous structure which is called as pericardium. So outer pleura and inner pleura, in between this two pleural membrane there is a cavity which is called as pericardial cavity, and this pericardial cavity is remain filled with a fluid that is called as the pericardial fluid. So this pericardium is very important. It is responsible for facilitate the working of the heart. It keep it moist, it provide the proper space for working, and it also protect it from the mechanical jerks. Okay, now then the human heart is composed of 4 chambers, that is the right atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle, and left auricle. Okay, then the human heart is myogenic heart, muscular in nature. I told you it is autonomous in nature, so its heartbeat is originated by itself with the help of a node that is present in the right part of the auricle. Okay, so that's why it is the myogenic heart. It is autonomous in nature. Clear? It consists of SA node which is called as the pacemaker. This SA node is sino-auricular node which is responsible to generate the heartbeat, and this heartbeat is continue to maintain the specific speed of the heart. It don't needed any kind of nerve impulse from the brain. Okay, in fishes the 2-chambered heart is present. You know that as the organism move from simple to complex one, their body combination is also become simple to complex. So similarly these fishes are having 2-chambered heart. It is also called the venous heart because auricle receive the blood and ventricles force the blood to the gills, and from these gills the exchange of oxygen takes place, and then later it supplied to different parts of the body. That's why it is 2-chambered. It forces the impure blood and later on it will be purified. Now then the next category, amphibian and reptiles. They are cold-blooded animals. One term is they are cold-blooded, that means the animals whose temperature is changes according to the surrounding or the season. They are unable to maintain their own temperature. They are called as cold-blooded animals. Okay, and they have 3-chambered heart. This reptiles and amphibians, they are responsible to pump the mixed type of blood, mixture of pure and impure blood. Okay, in which because auricles receive separately the pure blood and impure blood. Pure and impure means oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. But when it goes to the ventricle, then single ventricle is there, which is responsible to mix this two blood, and then later on it supplied it to the different parts of the body. So that's why a mixed blood is supplied by this one thing. It is less efficient in this one thing, but in the latter group of the reptiles it becomes somewhat complicated. But in the aves group, in the mammals one, it is 4-chambered in nature, where 2 auricles and 2 ventricles are there, and this blood is always remain separate as oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Okay, now we are discussing about the structure of the human heart. Okay, so this is actually a vertical section of the human heart. Okay, now so in general, first we talk about its component or its part. So basically this heart is having chambers, and you know that it is 4-chambered, in which auricles are there. You know very well, 2 auricles and 2 ventricles are there. Then this auricle and ventricle, to facilitate the particular direction of the blood, they are having walls. Okay, so they are having this cuspid walls. This left side of auricle and ventricle is having the bicuspid wall. It is also called the medial wall, and the right side consists of this tricuspid wall, that is the tricuspid wall, that is in the 3 flaps is there. Okay, and then they are also having one more category of the wall, that is called the semilunar wall. Okay, the semilunar wall is at the junction of the ventricles and the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein to maintain the this one thing. Then next one thing, there's a pericardium. We already talk about this one thing. Okay, so come to learn about this one thing. Clear? This heart is having these 4 chambers. Clear? This is the right side and this is the left side. Don't be confused, this is the mirror image. Okay, in the left side of the heart always oxygenated blood will flow. In the right side of the heart always deoxygenated will flow. Okay, now in this one you can see that this is the right auricle, this is the left auricle, and these 2 auricles remain separated with the help of one septa, that is called as the intra-auricular septa. The septum who is responsible to separate these 2 auricles. Okay, then here is one more septa is there who separate this right auricle ventricle, this one who separate this left auricle and ventricular. This is called as the auriculoventricular septum. Okay, and here is also the left auriculoventricular septum. Clear? Then after this auricles, it followed by the 2 chambers. It is responsible to cover the 3/4 part of the heart, and these are the right ventricle and this is the left ventricle, and they are separated with the help of separation. This is called as the intraventricular septum. Clear? Now here we are talking about the openings of the blood vessels. Okay, so in the right part, one opening is there which is responsible to bring the blood from the upper part of the body. This is the superior vena cava. Okay, and one more aperture is here that is responsible to bring the deoxygenated blood from the lower part of the body, that is called as the inferior vena cava. Similarly, in the left part, the 2 openings are there. One is the right pulmonary vein and second is the left pulmonary vein. This bring blood from the lungs. Okay, now the next one thing, the next 2 apertures are there. Okay, which is responsible to transfer this blood from auricles to ventricle, from left auricle to left ventricle. Now both these 2 ventricles are having one aperture. This aperture is connected with the arteries. Okay, these arteries are from the right auricle. The right pulmonary artery is coming out, which is further divided into 2 parts. The right pulmonary artery and the left pulmonary artery. Remember, these arteries are responsible for carrying deoxygenated blood. This is the exception only, otherwise arteries are responsible to carry oxygenated blood. Okay, now, and from this left ventricle the next aorta is coming out. Okay, which is further divided into 3: the dorsal aorta, the cephalic aorta, okay, and the this one who supplies this blood to the heart. Okay, so these are the things there. The upper artery or the dorsal aorta, it is responsible to divide and further transfer blood to different parts of the body, while this cephalic is responsible to supply the blood to the upper region. Okay, and while this one thing. Now then here we come to discuss the valves. What is the function of the valves? Valves are responsible to decide the direction of the blood, to maintain a particular direction of the blood. These valves are responsible. So we discussed earlier there are 2 valves, one is cuspid valve and second is the semilunar valve. So at the opening of these auricles into ventricles, there are these cuspid valves are there. In the left side, a bicuspid valve is there. Bicuspid means 2 membranous flaps are there, and at the right side this is the tricuspid valve is there, which contain 3 flaps are there. So this tricuspid valve is there. Okay, now, and what is the function of this valve? When these ventricles contract, then this one is responsible to protect the reverse flow of the blood in the auricles. Okay, remember this one thing. Then we come to the semilunar valve. Semilunar means semicircular or like a half full moon. Okay, then when this ventricle contract, then they pump this blood to the arteries. Okay, but when they contract, then this valve get closed and they further restrict the reverse entry of the blood where in the ventricles. Okay, we already discussed about the pericardium. It is the protective membranous covering with the help of this pericardial membrane, okay, which is responsible to protect it from the mechanical jerks and this one thing. Clear? Now here we are going to discuss the pumping action of the heart. Clear? The mechanism of heartbeat is completed in 3 sequential events. The sequence of these events is called the cardiac cycle. Okay, it is a cyclic process. Okay, you know that it is, your heart is always pumped like a engine, like an engine. It is a rhythmic in nature. Contraction, expansion, contraction, expansion. So it is a rhythmic process. Okay, so there are the 3 sequences. Basically 2 facts are there. One is contraction and second is expansion. Technically we call this contraction is a systole and expansion is a diastole. Okay, so don't think so the whole heart contract together and expand together. No, suppose that this is auricle and this is the ventricle. Then first auricle will contract, they transfer blood to the ventricle. Then ventricle will contract, they transfer this blood to the arteries. Okay, and then together they expand. So auricular systole, ventricular systole and ventriculo-auricular diastole togetherly, and then later it take a pause. Okay, so this is the basic fact. So here we can categorize them into auricular systole. Okay, so what is the auricular systole? The contraction of auricle called the auricular systole. What is the ventricular systole? The contraction of the ventricle is called as ventricular systole. And what is the ventricular diastole? It is actually the auriculo-ventricular diastole, because togetherly they will expand. Okay, now so remember this one thing. So with the help of this one thing we can learn about the double circulation in the of the blood. Actually, what is the meaning of double circulation? The 2 different blood, that means the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood will never get mixed in the body. Okay, and one more meaning, this blood enters through the right side and it goes to the left side. So after receiving and before giving it to the body, it moved twice in the body. That's why it is called as the double circulation. Okay, so what is the path of this one thing? First it enters to the superior and inferior vena cava to the right auricle. Right auricle, it goes to the right ventricle. Through this pulmonary artery it goes to the right and left lungs. From this right and left lungs it collected by the which one thing, that is the pulmonary veins. From this pulmonary veins it gives to the left auricle. From left auricle it goes to the left ventricle, and from left ventricle it transported to the different parts of the body. So you can see that this blood enter once, twice and then circulated to the body. So that's why it is called as the double circulation. And here is the clear-cut separation of the deoxygenated blood and the oxygenated blood. Okay, so that's why one cardiac cycle completed in 3 steps. One is that is the auricular systole, second is the ventricular systole, and third is the auriculo-ventricular diastole. Clear? And you know that to complete one cycle it needed 0.8 second. This auricular systole needed 0.3 second, this needed 0.1 second, and togetherly for expansion needed 0.4 second. So 0.8 second is needed to complete one cardiac cycle. Okay, that's why what is the pulse rate or heartbeat of the human being? 72 per minute. Okay, and the pressure at which the blood is pumped around the body by the heart is called as the blood pressure, and the normal blood pressure of the human being is 120/80 mmHg. Okay, this is the upper limit and this is the lower limit. Clear? Upper pressure is called as the systolic pressure and the lower is called as the diastolic pressure. Okay, plus minus 10 in the lower pressure is responsible to decide the hypertension and the hypotension, the high blood pressure and lower blood pressure. Okay, so we already talk about the double circulation. So in the human being there is a double circulation, that means there is no mixing of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Okay, now here we are going to discuss the blood vessel, the tubular structure who is responsible to transport the blood from one part to different parts of the body. So here it can be divided into this three part: arteries, veins, and the capillaries. Okay, what are the arteries? Arteries are red to pink colored blood vessel who is responsible to carry blood from heart to different parts of the body. Basically, these arteries are carrying oxygenated blood, but one exception is there, that is the pulmonary artery who carry blood from heart to lungs, that is the deoxygenated blood. Okay, and this the wall of the artery is thick in nature. Okay, their volume is very few. Okay, and the blood flows in the form of the jerks. You can feel here, and the outer part of your body. Clear? And it is quite muscular as well as elastic in nature to maintain the blood pressure. They don't have any wall because the blood is always flow through the higher pressure in these blood vessels. Okay, now then here we come to discuss the veins. The veins are actually thin walled, less musculated walled structure. Okay, they are having semilunar wall because at the time of the general pause, this backward flow of the, to restrict the backward flow of the blood in the veins, this semilunar wall is there. Okay, these veins are basically blue to purple in color. On the outer part of your body, you can see this blue color structure. This is the veins. Okay, these are responsible to carry deoxygenated blood. They carry blood from different parts of body to the heart. Okay, and one exception, remember again, that the pulmonary vein who carry oxygenated blood from lungs to heart. Okay, remember this one thing. Next one thing, that is the capillaries. Okay, these are the very thin single cell wall structure is there. Okay, by dividing this artery into very fine structure, that is called the arterioles, and the veins who made by the combination of this very fine capillary structure, that is called the venules. Okay, so this is the arterioles and venules. Now then here we come to discuss the second circulatory fluid, that is the lymph. Okay, we already talked about this one thing. It is another type of fluid found in our body, also involved in transportation. It is formed when the some amount of plasma, proteins and blood cell escape into the intercellular space in the tissue through the pores present in the wall of capillaries. So by separating from the blood, okay, except then the RBC, whatever the fluid we collected in the intercellular space of the tissue, that is called as the lymph. Okay, and what is the function of the lymph? It is involved in the transportation of substances. The intracellular or the intercellular transportation is performed by this one thing, not organ to organ, it is inside the organ. Clear? It carries digested and absorbed fat from intestine and drains excess fluid from extracellular spaces back into the blood. And the lymphocyte present in the destroyed harmful pathogens. These are phagocytic in nature, who is responsible to destroy the pathogens and this one thing. Okay, so this is all about the transportation in animals. Now we are moving forward to discuss about the transportation of the in the plants. Okay, basically you know that there are two type of things is actually transported in the plant. One, that is the gas after the exchanges, and second the food and water and minerals. Okay, so the plants have specialized vascular tissue for transportation of substances. So there are two types of vascular tissue in plants. Clear? So if you observe that, so we call it the vascular tissue because they are vascularized, they are tubular structure, okay, to carry this substance, and we can clearly divide into two parts. One is the xylem and second is the phloem. Okay, so what is the xylem? It is responsible for transportation of water and minerals. It is composed of tracheids, vessels, parenchyma and the fibers. Okay, and it forms the continuous tubular structure to run along the body, and is responsible to transport the water and the minerals which absorbed by the roots from the soil to the upper part of this one thing. Okay, so it is a complex tissue composed of 4 components. Clear? And it carry water and mineral from the leaves and other part of the plant. Then we come to the phloem. Phloem is also complex tissue. Okay, it just nearly present in the peripheral part of the vascular tissue. It also composed of 4 components. One, that is the phloem parenchyma, second is the phloem fibers, then the sieve tubes, and finally that is the accessory cells, okay, so companion cells, and it is responsible to distribute the dissolved food material, and basically its direction is from leaves to different parts of the body. It may be bidirectional too, okay. Now then here, with the help of these differences, we can clearly make difference between the xylem and phloem, okay. So this xylem is a complex tissue which form this 4 component and it form this 4 component, clear. Xylem is responsible to transport the inorganic water material, that is water and minerals, while phloem always carrying dissolved organic substances, okay. The xylem is called as the dead tissue because it is mainly composed of the dead cell, while phloem is a living tissue. Xylem is basically composed of the tracheids and the vessels, okay, which is lignified inside, and it gives the mechanical strength while it is a softer in nature, okay. It located in the center of the and the deep part of the plant, while it present in the surrounding or the peripheral part of the plant, okay. The direction of the flow of the substances in the xylem is unidirectional, always from upper part to lower part, okay. But in the phloem it may be bidirectional, from leaf to lower part of this one thing, but in the condition of store food transportation it move from root to upper part also, okay. So the xylem provides the mechanical support, but this phloem does not provide the mechanical support. Now then here we are going to discuss the transport of water, okay. So if you observe this one thing, then few terms are there. One, that is the ascent of sap, clear, that means the upward movement of the water. Now we are calling this water as a sap because it become the part of living system, that's why we are calling it the sap. The upward movement of water and mineral from roots to different plant parts is called ascent of sap, and the many factors are at play in the ascent of sap, like many steps, and they are discussing here, okay. So it is not a simple process, it is such a complicated process in which these different factors are responsible to influence it. So first of all, root pressure. As you know that the roots are responsible to absorb the water from the soil, okay. So in this one, the walls of the cells of root hairs are very thin, and the water from the soil enters the root hair because of the osmosis, that is the end osmosis, and the root pressure is responsible for movement of water in the upward direction, okay. But not only root pressure, but a slight height can be traveled by the water with the help of this root pressure, that is only up to 12 to 15 feet only, clear. Now then second is the capillary action, okay. A very fine tube is called capillary. Water or any liquid rises in this capillary because of physical force, and this phenomenon is called the capillary action. So water in stem rises to some height because of the capillary action. As you know that if you dip the capillary in the water, then without any external content or this one thing, it lifted upward. So that is a capillary force. Now then we come to discuss one more important fact, that is the adhesion and cohesion force of the water molecule. You know that water molecule shows the highest cohesion force, that means that the bonding between the two molecules of water is the strongest one, okay. So this is the cohesion force, and the capacity to adhere or to attach with the support or the surface, that is called as the adhesion. So when they form a chain or a column, then this bonding will not broken down because of the cohesion force, okay. And they also supported them to stick with the surface, that is the adhesion force, okay. And finally one more force, that is the transpiration force. You know that what is the transpiration? Transpiration is a process of continuous loss of water in the form of the water vapors through the aerial part of the plant, okay. So there is scarcity of water, so this one is responsible to pull the water molecule from the next one, and this way they form a complete chain like structure from substomatal cavity to the root hair, and this way with the help of this root pressure who force from the lower one, capillary action who is responsible for pumping it, adhesion and cohesion force of the water, and finally the suctional pull we develop by the process of transpiration is responsible to uplift the water from soil to upward part. Okay, so this is the ascent of shape. Now we are going to discuss the transport of food. Clear? The transport or movement of soluble products of photosynthesis from leaves to other part of the plant is termed as the translocation. This is the term translocation. The transferring of organic food material from leaf to other part of the plant is called as translocation. It is actually the active transportation because it involves the utilization of energy. Okay, and the flow of substances through phloem takes place in both the direction, as we learn that mostly it is from upper part to lower part, but in case of extraordinary condition it is from lower part to upper part also. Okay, now in the translocation of substances takes place in the CU tubes with the help of adjacent companion cell and both in upward and downward direction. So in the phloem tissue, these CU tubes are basically responsible to carry this one thing, and finally this which one, that the companion cells are responsible to assist them. Okay, so students, this is all about the discussion on the transportation in animals and plant. So I would like to thank you for listening this discussion carefully. So please take care of your learning and keep reading. All the best and thank you.